It's been nearly 200 kits since we saw the sister unit of this kit. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Bolinoak Sammahn, a wide, thick mobile suit first seen in Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. The older Gundam fans will be hyped about this one, as it's one of the last kits we needed to complete the line of mobile suits developed by Paptimus Scirocco, the antagonist and leader of the Titans in Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam's last act. This big guy is piloted by Sarah, one of Paptimus's ace pilots and close hand for all his dirty work. Because this is an experimental mobile suit, it has a ton of features we don't typically see in grunt suits used at the time. Covered in thrusters and with a large, wide stance, the Bolinoak means business when it enters the battlefield. Starting this review like all other reviews, let's cover the runners. Packed into this high-grade Universal Century box, we have 12 runners, 2 polycap runners, and 3 effect part runners. Across these runners we have 6 molded colors to make up the main body, and 171 parts used for the main build, with 4 effect parts used for the beam axe saber combo. The Bolinoak was a very easy, laid-back build. The smallest part here was some red thrusters, and that's really it. The polycaps used here are minimal despite the kit shipping with 2 sets of polycap runners, and every part of the build flowed nicely. After building a few complex builds, it was nice to take a step back and build a simple high grade that's fairly color accurate and easy to just snip and build. I really didn't have any complaints here with the Bolinoak from a building perspective. This kit was panel lined with my usual method of Tamiya accent color and refilling any I might have erased during cleanup with a panel liner pen. I didn't run into any smudging on this build with the Tamiya, and most panels flowed and filled nicely. I filled any shallow lines like the ones on the inner shoulder armor with the pen, as the panel was not deep enough for the Tamiya to flow, and this method worked great. I would highly recommend panel lining this kit as it brings out a lot of detail, especially on those hatches on the front chest, as well as all the greebling that's inside the big rear main thruster. There's really some nice detail on display here for this Zeta era design. The seam lines for this big guy are about on par with most high-grade Gunpla. There's quite a few of them, and they aren't as easy to hide as panel lines like we've seen on the seed kits earlier this year. Some of the more noticeable seam lines are for the upper thruster, the shoulder armor, and the gray forearm, and they all stand out and draw some attention. Some of the other seam lines, like the ones on the upper thigh and rear leg armor, can be panel lined and end up looking like a armor panel. These are nice to have, as it would mean more seam lines if these didn't exist, so I'm glad Bandai was thinking of seam lines here, at least to some degree on this kit. However, if you wanted a perfect or competition build with this guy, you'll have to spend some time closing up these seam lines. Color accuracy out of the box with this guy is very good, a nice change over the old HGUC Gunpla. If this kit came out back, say, at number 61, right after the Palace Athene, I bet a lot of these red thrusters would be stickers or would have to be painted. Fortunately, Bandai has done a good job advancing their high-grade Gunpla technique and made it so these red thrusters that are all over the mobile suit are color separated on the runners, which makes for a great effect. The stickers included with this kit are small yellow stickers that go throughout the kit. Luckily, the area for these stickers is recessed. I used most of the ones instructed, and it came out looking pretty good. The cheek vents look fine and are a sticker, as does the yellow markings on the upper thigh. The only stickers I would say look bad are the small yellow stickers on the upper thruster, and that's simply because they look like they're about to fall off the piece itself. You can absolutely get away with using the stickers on this kit and have it looking natural. One of the parts that would absolutely need paint is the missile pod hatches on the shoulder. Opening the hatch, we can see that the inside is still this lime cantaloupe green color, where it should be black inside. This would be easy to mask and spray, and really one of the only areas I can think of that would require paint to make the kit accurate to the anime. The nubs for this kit are placed on edges of armor like most Gunpla kits. Using the 2-cut method will work for the most part, but there are some parts specifically on the darker colors where you might want to get your glass files and sanders out, those being the darker green colors that we see on the upper thruster of the Backapck. I was very careful and made my second cut on these thrusters precise and even sanded down a bit with my thumbnail, but sadly the nub marks up here are easy to see. Beyond these nubs on the upper thruster, some of the darker gray pieces have some large gates. The nubs on the center of the left forearm is super easy to spot. Definitely be mindful here of the large nubs on this kit. Again, like the seam lines, these are pretty average for a high-grade Gunpla. With the bulk of the build covered, let's talk about articulation. The head is on a big swivel in the torso and a ball joint in the head. There's really no neck here for this kit. With the swivel, we can look downwards about 50 degrees, which isn't bad considering the design. With the ball joint, we can look upwards about 5 degrees, and that's all we really get. We can also rotate the head around 360 degrees, but it looks super goofy doing this, so just keep it looking left and right. We can also move the mono-eye in the head using a tab in the bottom of the head, which is a great feature allowing us to look left and right. The torso has a ball joint in the abdomen and a ball joint connecting the torso to the waist. Now this ball joint in the abdomen is a bit of a problem with this kit. It is very easy to knock this ball joint out of its socket, giving you an extremely weak abdomen and making the whole upper body of the kit wobbly and unstable. I absolutely would recommend some joint guard for this ball joint as it desperately needs it. The second issue with this ball joint is the scissor claw on the left arm. It is very heavy, meaning that this kit wants to perpetually lean towards the left. With this abdomen ball joint, we can lean the kit forward, giving us a 30-degree ab crunch. We also have a 20-degree lean in either direction if we disconnect the scissor claw. With this disconnected, you can actually get it to stay standing upright. It might be advantageous to put some weight into the right arm to try and keep this balanced so the kit can better maintain posability. The waist has some sort of armor flap on the front that can swivel around and blocks the midriff of this mobile suit from oncoming attacks. The last bit of articulation we have is the rotation of the waist, which gives us a tight 360-degree rotation. I wouldn't rotate this joint much though, as it's just a polycap and has all the weight of the upper body resting on it, so it has a big job to do to keep this kit stable. The legs fortunately don't have any skirts to contend with. That allows us to kick forward and backwards 90 degrees in either direction, no problem. We can get a 60-degree split here, and all that really stops us is the upper thigh armor from getting a full 90-degree split. Sometimes it's nice not having any skirt armor to get in our way of articulation. The knee is double jointed, but this design is so bulky, we don't get a lot of use out of it. We can still pull off a nice kneeling pose, but we can really only get a 90-degree leg bend out of this articulation, when usually double jointed knees give us a 140 to 150 degree leg bend. The feet here are on a swivel in the shin and a ball joint in the foot, giving us some slight forward and backward movement. The left to right tilt and rotation is very limited by the lower foot armor, so the foot articulation here is sadly pretty limited, which doesn't help for posing. The toe is also on a bend, allowing the toe to bend upwards or downwards as you see fit. The arms have a ball joint deep in the torso that connects to a ball joint in the shoulder. There is no outward reaching gimmick, so these arms are stuck articulating the way they are. The arm can rotate around 360 degrees with a thruster move backward and the arm in a bicep curl. The shoulder can reach outwards and upwards just at 90 degrees, giving us a T pose. The shoulder does have a flap on the armor and has a little bit of up and down articulation. The bicep is on a swivel and the wrist is also on a swivel, giving us two places where we can rotate the arm around 360 degrees. This is nice for the limited shoulder reach articulation. The bicep is on a double joint, giving us a full bicep curl, nearly touching the shoulder armor. Finally, the hand is on a ball joint, so it can swivel and rotate around as you would expect a ball joint to do. The backpack here is pretty simple, but I'm still thankful we have articulation here. The upper thrusters are in a polycap ball joint, allowing us to rotate and swivel these thrusters around however we see fit. The lower black thrusters are on a regular plastic ball joint, allowing these to swivel and rotate around just like the upper thrusters. The accessories included with the Bolinoak are the scissor shield, which is massive and have these pincers that can articulate. The shield can also house two beam sabers, which can be utilized as a beam rifle once stowed in the shield. These beam axe sabers are quite beefy and use the old Sinanju beam tomahawk parts for their beam effect. There's also a spare head for the Bolinoak, which is nice, so you don't have to swap the domes out. One dome is the active ray dome, and the other head is the inactive ray dome. I love that they included this as it makes setting the Bolinoak in either configuration very easy. The posability of this kit is fair at best. This kit suffers from a very blocky and asymmetrical design that makes it a little more difficult to balance. Couple that with the weak ball joint in the abdomen and you have a recipe for a temperamental kit that really needs a lot of patience to pose with. The legs are also incredibly limited, with the knee only coming in at 90 degrees, and the lack of tilt on the feet doesn't help it pull off any wider stances, which would complement this design quite well. Some joint guard is absolutely necessary for this kit, both in the ball joint for the waist and the ball joint in the abdomen. This kit does do pretty well on a stand, and this is probably where it belongs anyways, as we really only see the Sammahn during space combat. It can at least stand on its own and pull off a Kotoki or readying for battle pose while standing, but any intricate posing would definitely benefit from a stand. The Bolinoak Sammahn excels in a lot of areas like color accuracy, parts layout and ease of build, but lacks in a few other areas like the troublesome articulation and wonky balancing. I do appreciate its uniqueness with its asymmetrical and bear-inspired design. It's definitely got its own vibe to it, and I admire that about the design, and by extension this model kit. If you're looking for a very articulate kit that's able to pull off a lot of cool poses, this is not the kit for you, as the abdomen and legs really leave a lot to be desired. But if you appreciate the design and understand that Bandai did a decent job bringing this bizarre design to kit form, then you'll get some enjoyment out of this kit. The problems that it does have are minimal enough and easy to work around that they don't break the kit and make it hard to recommend. Unlike most kits, your mileage greatly increases with a stand, but at least with this kit it isn't 100% required to make it stable. If you're a fan of classic Gundam, or at least Zeta Gundam, I think this kit would be a great pickup. It does have some nice tech behind it, and it is a lot of fun to build. Don't let the looseness of the waist and abdomen drive you away if this is a kit you want or have been waiting on. These are easily fixed with some joint guard. At the end of the day, this is a really good representation of the Bolinoak Sammahn in model kit form, and I'm not really sure if it could have been done any better than what we have, considered how top heavy and bizarre this kit is. Thank you all so much for tuning into this kit review of the Bolinoak. I hope you enjoyed this glimpse back into the 80s for some Zeta Gundam goodness. As always, these videos wouldn't be possible without my subscribers, and I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for the likes, the comments, and the subscriptions. Until the next video, stay safe, have fun, and happy building.